Hello. Good morning. Still haven't decided where I'll go to read this. I'm looking for a good song and I'm stuck between this one and Nothing Passage. But just because I don't want to repeat this place. And also during this stream, if I ever run into an anecdote, I will just do it. Because I literally haven't started them. I haven't done any of them. So yeah, I probably should. I do want to compile them all into one video. So if anything, if I do any of them today, I will just add them to that compilation and then upload them all together on YouTube. Although, depending on how important they are, I might leave it private. I think I did that with the other anecdotes. Like, I didn't even make them public, it's just for my own record. But yeah. Okay, so which one should I start with? Reed Miller or the artifacts? Let me try Nothing Passage, just to remember the song that plays here. Okay. Yeah, I think I prefer this one, just because it doesn't have vocals, so it's easier to not get messed up. I wish there was a sitting place here, but I don't think there is. Okay. Right, I also have the Conch echoes. Okay. 3 volumes. No, I think I want to start with the artifacts, actually. Just so I have all my brain power available for them. Okay. So, I'm not sure if there's any specific order that I should be reading them in, but I mean, I will read them all and I suppose I will know by the end. So, okay. Bloom of the Mind's Desire. Those were the days when the sinners had yet to commit their unforgivable offense, somewhere deep within the earthly subterranean kingdom. Okay, so we're in Kandria. The people of the kingdom had never seen the sea, nor had they ever seen the real sun. But even in this dark, sunless place, some tried to reach for the secrets of the stars. However, they gazed not at the stars, but sought the truth in the mirror's false reflection. Perhaps because of the kingdom's unique location, strange phenomena often appeared in the star charts within its bounds. These phenomena were recorded by astrologers. These phenomena were recorded by astrologers as signs of truth. Huh. That reminded me of the sign of a Pausha, for some reason. Reflecting their deep desire to uncover truth. Maybe, even if the mirror shows nothing but illusions, it is only by piercing through them that we can reach the truth. This was a conclusion the astrologers reached over time as they pored over the voluminous star charts. But unbeknownst to the philosophers of their time, they had already glimpsed a tiny fragment of the infinity that was the eternal bedeviled sky. Many years passed, long enough for the earthly gods to fall, one by one, and for the Atreus sun to rise where the crimson moon once hung. Even then, there were those who had already uncovered the secret behind the great sin, and so the study of the stars became a forbidden pursuit. Only a select few within the kingdom were then granted the privilege of sidestepping the ban, so they might better serve their one-eyed ruler. Yet the unexpected always finds a way, just like the moment when an unwitting novice monk brushes away the dust that has concealed a Pausha's mirror. Bro! What did I say earlier? A Pausha! The dust that has concealed a Pausha's mirror, unveiling the wondrous light that encircles the distant horizon, and filling that tiny stargazing chamber with brilliance once more. How beautiful the pitch-black Elysium is, how dazzling, and yet how utterly profane. In the blink of an eye, it consumed young Rothvangi's every thought and desire. Thus began the tale and transgressions of the mad monk, who in later days would sing the praises of the abyss beyond the heavens. So yeah, coincidentally, today I watched a video from lore content creator. His name is Neko Kitsune, and he mentioned that Rotbangi and Rotwang are probably the same person, and they're probably rarer, which makes a lot of sense. I didn't make the connection earlier on my own, so I do wanna shout him out for bringing that to my attention. Okay. Feather of inedible sin. To overstep the bounds of one's station is already less majest, and to delve into the forbidden dark knowledge is an even graver offense. But Ruthvangi never once defended himself, for in his heart he held nothing but that light. Soon, the court delivered its verdict. The researcher was to be expelled from the Universitas Magistrorum and exiled. For one of outland stock like him, exile was even more terrifying than the punishment of death. Exile was, after all, an ancient curse for those who had turned their backs on the gods, and once they returned above ground, that malison would catch up with them swiftly. A punishment like this was itself already a betrayal of the kingdom's noble ideals, a sign that the underground realm was in decline. But royal orders had to be obeyed. Besides, he who had glimpsed Elysium's depths knew all too well that he could no longer endure what lay ahead. Fade away, O meaningless life. At least you glimpse truth, if for but one moment. Rotvangi finally emerged from the cavern, stepping into real sunlight. Yet nothing happened to him, unlike the others beside him, who now shrieked in agony. It was as if the great existence of the cosmos had manifested before him in that instant, and chosen, above all others, to bestow upon him the grace of darkness. Fortunately, tragically, he finally came to realize his mission. Flames illuminate the world, but they are also what reduce it to ashes, and my fate is like that of a moth leaping into the flame. Bro, what is it with moths in this game? Okay, yeah, it's definitely rarer. It's just that I didn't even think about the possibility of him not being Conrian based on how he looks. Sure, his eyes aren't specific, they're not really particularly star-shaped, but I don't know. Arlecchino's eyes aren't star-shaped, they're crosses, so I don't know, maybe there was a possibility that there could also be other types of eyes related to chondria. Plus, they're not exactly star-shaped, but they are kind of star-shaped. So, okay. Revelations toll. It was a time before the dark disaster engulfed the nations, a time when people still savored those last golden years. It is said that there was an erudite and gifted researcher who wandered the nations for many years. He had already read every Retaohist chronicle, browsed the libraries of the northern lands. However, even after searching in the oldest records, he could not find what he was looking for. That pitch-black Elysium, miraculous and not of this world. He had traveled to every corner of the known world, save for that barren, still undeveloped land. That was the northern borderland known as nod-krai. It had only been a few years ago that the Tsar of Snezhnaya ordered it to be explored and put to use. No famous researchers dwelled there, nor did it seem to contain any traces of ancient civilizations. Oh, futile life that I have led, this shall be my final post, he thought before setting off for nod-krai. Hope may be gone, but I cannot give up now. Once more, he glimpsed the truth he had long pursued, perhaps because his wish had finally been heard and heeded, and at last he uncovered the sinful path that opened into the pitch-black Elysium. Now, all that remained was for him to open the gate, one that had shone in countless dreams, with his own two hands. No matter the means, and no matter the price that had to be paid. Okay. Vessel of Plenty. In the rotating galleries of Sapolyarny Palace, the banquets and dances never seemed to stop. The Fey nobles, fond of luxury, considered attending banquets their most important duty. Even the hardest heart could be softened by the rich aroma of fine wine, and many important affairs of state, both great and small, were often decided by those in slightly tipsy haze. Professor Rotwang, whom the nobles called the Mad Monk in private, had attended court rather frequently of late. This was not just because he had become the Tsar's favorite through his mastery of alchemy and astrology, nor simply because he constantly uttered profound aphorisms that inevitably sent everyone in the room into laughter. What truly made the nobles sit up and take notice was the legend surrounding him. It was said that the Grand Duke Photius, once, out of envy, sought to get rid of this troublesome viper. He replaced the fine fire water with a deadly poison, but to his astonishment, the good professor appeared completely unaffected after drinking it. In the end, the Grand Duke himself took a knee to the monk, even becoming the latter's most devoted follower. Damn, that's crazy. Another tale had it that Filipov, the most adept of the Fae at the art of transformation, once publicly called the professor's research nothing more than an elaborate hoax. The mad monk responded to the accusation with naught but a calm smile. Then, before everyone's eyes, he summoned the soul of Filipov's late wife, who had been appearing in the bereaved Fae's dreams. These tales became a favorite topic of chatter at banquets, but whenever someone tried to confirm their truth, the professor remained silent. Perhaps no one truly cared whether these stories were true. Maybe they only existed to entertain banquet guests between songs and dances. Or perhaps, to the nobles, an outlander with no local ties was more worthy of their trust. Of course, it would be even better if he could assist them with a few niggles. But how could mere actors in this drama have foreseen the tragic denouements coming? Okay. What's about to happen? Tell me more. Crown of the Befallen. The northern winds brought new opportunities and the touch of civilization to the ancient borderlands. Where the great trees fell, cities, ports, and factories were built. But only the Tsar's favorite knew that the prosperity everyone saw was not as it seemed, and that the ruler of the Fae now hatched a bold scheme, a revolt that the sublunary order could never tolerate. But if you ask me, His Majesty the Tsar could afford to think even bigger, surely. Bound by the chains of benevolence to this earth, he has never once looked up at the stars. Such great power, and yet he only seeks to be the ruler of all living things beneath the moon. Little does he know that the true eternal Elysium he seeks lies beyond the sky veil. The sky's veil. The mad monk, serving as the Tsar's envoy, arrived in nod-krai on a secret mission. Whoever claimed the treasure hidden here would wield a power capable of turning the world upside down. However, he sought this power not to save the world, but to use it as a means to serve his own ends. Look at these foolish, fleeting mortals, as hopeless as this rapidly fading world of illusion. Only those like me, who have been chosen by the supreme grace, are worthy of living on. Better to find liberation in sacrifice for a great endeavor than to remain lost in endless cycles of samsara. Reed Miller, cast your meaningless melancholy aside, for you and I have been chosen by fate. Come, follow me. Though the world is destined for destruction, we shall emerge from the celestial shell. How did we tie Reed Miller into this? Better to find liberation in sacrifice for a great endeavor than to remain lost in endless cycles of samsara. That's the last one, yeah. Okay. So this is definitely all about Rarier. Or at least I think so. Yeah. Yeah, because we started in Cambria. And talked about the sinners. Seems to represent a terrifying presence that unfurls like a bloom. The leather accessory was once worn on a felt hat. Feels out of place among the nobles of Nesnaya and their taste for splendor. An exquisite chiming clock that, driven by a mysterious power, it does not seem that timekeeping is its purpose. Specially crafted goblet used for palace banquets. It was once employed to perform some kind of magic. A crown modeled on the circlet worn by a sinner. Perhaps in someone's heart, love and sin flow from the same source. Okay. Ugh, I forgot to... Okay, first of all, I'm going to turn this off. And then I also forgot to... no, not here. Forgot to fill up my water bottle, so give me one moment so I can take a sip before continuing. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Crystal Tear of the Wanderer. An immaculate flower whose beauty is said to have been preserved for eternity by the icy wind. That was a time when the gentle frost light still lingered, a silver mirror unbroken, even as the golden realm had already fallen. In a single night, the glorious golden tower fell like a fig tree. Across the frozen northern plain, from the most holy citadel to the ancient capital, dark blue crystal nails annihilated every last city with even the most minuscule sign of life. The once praised apostle and the god's first messenger both vanished in the catastrophe. Once praised apostle and the god's first messenger both vanished. Is this referring to the first angel and the Voyager? Those who survived by grace of being nowhere near the cities at the time could only cling to life amidst the freezing wind and snow. With no refuge left to them, they simply waited for destruction to find them in the hollow dark. This is the great extinction spoken of in later prayers. Halcyon prosperity turned to dust, and the gods remained silent, unmoved by cries, curses, or reproach. In the despair of that long night, only one celestial ruler shed tears for the mortal's pain. She was the mistress of the Frost Moon, queen of the celestial chariot and of light, a heavenly agent whose origin was one with that of the world. Moved by pity and a deeper unspoken wish, she heeded the survivors' prayers. According to legend, she spun gleaming threads from the silver glow to lead the displaced across the frozen plains, and where her tears full of longing fell upon the frost-covered soil of the far north, they blossomed into lilies that would stand eternal in the icy winds. The proud descendants of Hyperborea called themselves the Frostmoon Scions for this reason, to honor the divinity who, whatever her original intent, gave them a new lease on life. I see. Pristine plume of the blessed. That was a time when the frost's gentle light had long shattered like a silver mirror, but when the new moon had yet to rise. This is the story of two sisters who, born defective products, were never meant to be blessed. In the moonlight and undisturbed sanctuary for strangers, the fragile souls shared a single breath. In the brief moments between agonies, moments that should have been filled with joy, they huddled together, drawing what little warmth they could from each another. Bro, why not each other? They had never seen their parents, nor had they ever heard the wind whispering through the groves. The two of them had only their grandmother, and the only way they'd seen the world was through the pages of a faded storybook. Okay, so this is Alia and Ayla. I thought so when they said two sisters, but I wasn't 100% sure. But now that we know they only had their grandmother. Its brittle yellowed pages, torn and tattered, revealed to them a world they'd never seen. There it was, a single white bird, a streak of grace, gliding beneath a perfect moon. As they admired the free creatures of the fairy tales, the two children made a promise to each other. One day, the two of them would fly together like the white birds in the vast sky. Since the day we were born, it's always been just the two of us. When the day comes for us to leave, let's leave the rest of our lives together. Many years later, one of them broke their promise, leaving for a faraway place alone. But alas, this was no flight toward a brighter future, but a fall into a much darker night. With her went half the dream and half the pain meant for them both. Ayla, later to become the first moon chanter, began to endure twice the torment from that day on. So you lied to me all along as well. My older sister, the only one I ever truly trusted. But I won't resent you. I have long lost hope for the sky beyond. Yeah. I thought there were twins. Okay. Frost Devotee's Delirium. That was the time when Frost's gentle light had long shadowed like a silver mirror, but when the new moon had yet to rise. It was then that the great plan, carried through countless generations since the time of extinction, was on the verge of culmination. Okay, so the bloodline, the eugenics project. The bloodline, purified for over 1,000 years, would at last give birth to the chosen one, destined to reign over Elysium. The full sevenfold radiance of the high heavens would fall at her feet, and the bones of the earth would rise to follow her. For from her would spring union with the world, and from her would the first great cause be rebuilt. That was the sacrosanct duty that had been passed down to the daughters of the far north. So it should have been. So it should have been. But on a moonless, snowbound night, the girl chosen to bear the sacred air met the boy from the northern realm, and in his eyes, a clear winter's day, she beheld a reflection of a self she had never known. This unfamiliar staring was enough to make the holy woman turn her back on destiny for that young officer from afar. For this new feeling, this foolishness called love, she cut off her blood-stained antler crown and cast it down upon the snowy earth. The fallen one, who had betrayed her own people, ultimately failed to fulfill her destined duty. She was captured by a spy sent by the mad monk, and was soon to be returned to the homeland she was meant to save, to love. But as she looked down at the officer by her feet, crimson pooling beneath him, she drew the dagger to her throat in one final, fatal kiss. And so, the woman who failed to bear the sacred air was buried in haste, her death forestalling the prophecy. Fortunately, the leaders of every generation had long prepared for premature end of such a blessed lady. Lovia, and the then archpriestess, swiftly turned to a lesser branch of the bloodline for spares. But the twin sisters born of this lineage were a pale shadow of the one they were meant to replace. Hundreds of years might now have to pass before another child of sufficient purity was born. Seeing the glory of the great endeavor slip from her grasp like dissipating dew, the antler-crowned archpriestess, maddened by anguish and obsession, hatched a terrible scheme. Why wait for the 1,000 winds to sweep through several generations? If they were too impure, their flesh and blood too weak to bear the radiance of the true moonlight, did the frost moon's boon not linger faintly in all blank? Then let blank purify their blank. Let me reread this to see if I can figure this out. Madam by anguish and obsession hatched a terrible scheme. No. I have no clue. I mean, purify there most likely is blood. Did the frost moon's boon not linger faintly in all this time? Could be. Thus, in the name of the flawless moonlight, the priestess committed an act so profane that even the mistress of the frost moon would recoil in horror at the blasphemy. Maybe with the next one we will know better what happened. Joyous glory of the pure. That was a time when Frost's gentle light had long shadowed like a silver mirror, but when the new moon had yet to rise. The descendants of the far north could no longer hear the divine teachings of the high heavens, and they were consumed by burning wrath, just like in the days of old. No one knew how to forge anew the marble the apostle of the golden city had revealed to their ancestors. Okay. That was a weird sentence, I'm sorry. Yet the ambitions of the exiled, the ambitions of mortals, were more unyielding than even those of the gods. Should one lose the reliquary that can overnight till 10,000 acres of fertile land upon the dark misty sea of ice, then pen wild oxen into the furrows so that one may conquer the tundra inch by inch with fire, hoe and sickle. Should one lose the arrow that can strike down the gods and pierce even that false sky, then forge the plowshare into sword and blade, and the sickle and hoe into spear and halberd, then let blood be the lantern that dispels the darkness. And should the authority of creation, gifted by the highest of angels, be broken, then one must govern the proliferation of the countless generations that follow by the crudest primordial means remaining, that is, through law. So it must remain, until blood thinned by disaster and exile is purified into holy seed, and mortal descendants are born as perfect beings, fully one with the world. The perseverance and determination of all living creatures would eventually overcome all calamity, or at least that is what they firmly believed. After all, those who have planned the future of their people rarely have to suffer the slings and arrows of their contempt. Here, drink this pure moonlight, my beloved child, my most cherished child. Let it weave into your flesh and blood, so that you too may be worthy of the God's grace. Look to the apostle of the golden city, how he drank bitter wine and fought for the freedom of his compatriots. Like him, you must embrace this joyous pain, for from it, perfection will one day be born. The two could no longer tell what filled the ancient silver goblet, but if the kindly grandmother said so, then it must also be the will of the gods. Yes, yes. All to sculpting perfection, to fulfill a wish that had endured 1,000 years. For the sake of the prophesied Elysium and the king destined to descend upon the world, impurity and trial had first to be transcended. Drink this pure moonlight. I did think that here it could be let moonlight purify their blood, but I'm not sure, and here it says the two could no longer tell what filled the ancient silver goblet, so this could be just a metaphor, I guess, saying drink this pure moonlight. Wait, I remember there was a recipe for that. I can go look for it after this one. Holy crown of the believer. That was a time when Frost's gentle light had long shattered like a silver mirror, but when the new moon had yet to rise. The god's ancient blessing, like a lone spark on the vast tundra, eventually flickered out. As the heavenly moon passed from the sky, The earth that could not become the moon began to wither. The great deeds miracle workers did in years past had faded into vaporous prayers, and those prayers were now the silent worries of the masses. In those crumbling moonless nights, even a holy woman of the purest blood was hard-pressed to weave the flowing light into a song that could move the world, as her ancestors once did. No matter how fervently the ancestors of the far north once vowed to follow their departed gods, their descendants, mortals in this sublunary sphere, lived lives as fleeting as a flickering flame. In days long gone, when one could still behold holy women and archpriestesses channeling the grace of the gods, people yet believed the new moon would one day arise from their shadowed light. And so, when the last glimmer of grace had faded and miracles were no longer witnessed, the line between so-called faith and so-called lies in turn grew as thin and fragile as the morning mist. Legend has it that the antlered crown of the moon chanters today was a gift from the frost moon at the moment of its obliteration. The silver tree was splintered and bereft of white branches they might find. The priesthood pleaded for new coronals. Out of pity, the mistress of the moon wove holy crowns for them out of flawless moonlight, once innate to their birth. That was why the last archpriestess chose to forge her circlet from cold, pure iron. The young Lovia was just a priestess then, one who had never once witnessed a moonlit blessing, and she dreamed that such lies, that deceived others and oneself alike, could still bind the unfaithful believers together. Decades later, when the false antlered crown sank into the foul, corrupt blood, that which reflected in her eyes was still not the flawless moonlight, but the frigid night swallowed whole by her own shadow. Interesting. Let me... There's so much history in this place, and it's all coming out at the same time, so I'm pretty sure in the future we will understand this all with more ease, but for now it feels like so much. I feel like I have to keep referencing one thing or another to make sure I didn't forget anything, and to make sure that I'm understanding the references in one place correctly when compared to the other place. Okay, let's see. No, wait. I'm stupid. It was in the book. Not here. feel like I did read about that. Like some kind of mixture that they did that's like they considered like liquid moonlight or something like that. Well, I tried. I cannot find it. But what I can find is this book. Perfect segue. Okay, let me drink some water. Okay. Okay. The Legends of Reed Miller, Thief Extraordinaire. Volume 1. Your Dime Eerie Mystery. The Master Thief, Reed Miller and the Sample Mill, Deluxe Quarterly Edition. This inexpensive and entertaining story series, popular in Nashatown, costs only $10, 10 mora per issue. Presumably, it's about the master thief Reed Miller's attempt to steal the Frostmoon relic, the Sample Mill, from the governor's palace. However, in a seeming attempt to boost readership, the narrative is focusing on the many young women vying for Miller's affections instead. Okay. Chapter 4. Wagtail, a beauty as dangerous as a hunting falcon, has appeared. She approaches Master Thief Reed Miller under the moonlight, but to what end? Leaving your lovely female companions behind to come enjoy the night view here? What a cat you are, my dear. That soft voice is as smooth as the finest silk from Liyue, and yet beneath its surface lurks a subtle cruelty, sharp as the thorns of a Sumeru rose. Reed Miller does not turn around, for he knows that voice all too well. A graceful figure lands beside him, with the poise of a cat. A young woman in her 20s, with long lavender hair cascading over her pale bare shoulders and neck. She wears an elegant silver evening gown that clings to her curves like liquid moonlight. Still, it cannot conceal the mockery in her brownish red eyes. Meet Wagtail, or A, as she is known to a privileged few like Miller. She is the only femme fatale in nod-krai, whose skill and infamy rival those of the most legendary thieves. Any treasure she sets her sights on is already hers. Once the thrill is gone, she'll just as soon toss it to the poor in the streets as she might cast it into the sea. Countless men have vied for her affection, but she takes pleasure only in toying with her earnest feelings, and has never returned the love of a suitor. I mean, first of all, why is the comma inside the quotes? Second of all, we do know an A, but she doesn't have long lavender hair or brownish red eyes. She has literally red eyes. The only treasure Wagtail has been unable to steal is the heart of Master Thief Reed Miller. This one impossible feat drives her obsession with the handsome, enigmatic man, and she's tried every trick and gambit imaginable to make his heart hers and hers alone. I smell expensive perfume and cheap ambition, Wagtail. With a smile on her lips, she smoothly settles down beside the thief, then almost imperceptibly slides closer to him. It was a gift from another man. Jealous? She lets a silk-gloved hand trail down his arm. As for me, I smell overconfidence, Reed. You've got your eye on the sample mill, I'm sure, but isn't that a little obvious for you? You're right. I do want the mill, which was stolen from the Frostmoon Scions along all the governor's other ill-gotten treasures. Miller finally meets Wagtail's gaze, sending an involuntary shiver running through her and a blush rising to her cheeks, which she forces down with a glib smile. This is my stage tonight. You'd better find your own. Nonsense. She leans in, her lips merely a breath from his. The stage is big enough for two. The spotlight, however, that only shines on one. I'll have my hands on the mill before you do, darling, and if you please me, I might even let you see it from afar. Ding. The words are barely out of Wagtail's mouth before she whips out a slender, sinister-looking dagger with lightning speed. She delights in the pointless and seemingly dangerous attack, knowing full well Miller will block it, and indeed he does, by simply raising his arm and deflecting her blade with his gauntlet. The clash of metal on metal lasts but a brief moment. Reckless as always, Wagtail. It'll cost you one of these days. Recklessness is a privilege afforded to beautiful women, don't you know? If it's not to your liking, darling, come teach me a lesson. Like a moonlit breeze, she takes 2 steps back and blows him a playful kiss. Then she leaps into the darkness beneath the tower, leaving naught behind but the ghost of her expensive perfume in the cold night air. The middle section of the volume has been ripped out, perhaps for a purpose other than reading. Okay. Just as the governor, actually, chapter, that would be 17. Chapter 17. Just as the governor is fuming over the theft of the sample mill, a group of detectives from Snezhnaya suddenly swarm in and clap him in irons. Just what is... Your Excellency, your fury must have overtaken you, such that you've forgotten who Reed Miller is. He's a despicable thief, yes, but is he not also a master of disguise, able to become any man, woman, or child with uncanny skill? That's impossible. This is absurd. If you were pretending to be Leonov, the Oprichniki would surely have. The man posing as Detective Leonov laughs, slowly circling the bound governor twice in a clear mockery of his pompous deductions. The Oprichniki? You mean the men who tied you up and sealed off this palace? Those are my people. I had them pose as Oprichniki, and your men believed it without question. Surprised, Governor? Have you forgotten how blindly Snezhnayan soldiers follow orders, whether from real superiors or clever impostors? As we speak, the Frostmoon Scion's treasure has been safely returned to their holy lady. Unless you plan to defy the Tsar's will and risk open war with the Frostmoon Scions, recovering the sample mill is no longer an option for you. You blasted crook. You accursed thief. I could have tolerated you stealing the mill, but must you plunder my personal collection too? Does it matter? Those treasures you claim as yours, those lands you call your own, weren't they stolen from the destitute who live here? The man's demeanor remains perfectly composed, a stark contrast to the agitation written all over the governor's crimson face. I see no difference between a bandit who robs the people and a governor who oppresses them. We defend our freedom in the only way we can, because no one else will fight for it. But rest assured, I'm not keeping any of this. Every treasure will be returned to its rightful owner. I shall not keep even a single piece. Across the room, Wagtail, posing as a detective, lets out a soft sigh inaudible to the governor. Oh dear, this man truly is beyond help. He speaks of laying no claim to treasure when he holds the Frostmoon's most prized gem in his hand. Wagtail's words stunned Shadow Weasel, momentarily pulling her attention away from her adoptive father, who is bound up in the center of the room. When? Mr. Reed Miller should have given the sample mill to that holy woman. Wait, he didn't secretly swap it for a fake while we weren't looking, did he? Ah, you don't get it, don't you? You don't get it, do you? That's exactly how he deceived you, young ladies. The woman sighs dramatically. What he has stolen for himself is the heart of the First Moon's daughter. Okay. Volume 2. Volume 2. Just who is this person who so swiftly captured the heart of a young lady who didn't believe in love? This is a popular piece of fiction in nod-krai that chronicles the romance between the master thief Reed Miller and the governor's daughter, Leonida Prokorovna Trubetskaya. Leonida Prokorovna Trubetskaya. From their first encounter on. Disclaimer: this story is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to real persons, places, or events is purely coincidental. The young lady Leonida Prokorovna Trubetskaya, the apple of the governor's eye, makes her way to the dining room with her maid in tow. Though there's a current of anxiety running beneath her calm facade, her steps are poised and graceful. After all, a lady must always appear as such, no matter what. Her eyes are fixed on the morning papers, for she is most certain today is the day the master thief Reed Miller shall publish his notice. She might be beginning to understand the mind of this elusive raven, she thinks, and the fact that her father's men haven't even caught a glimpse of him yet has sparked a flash of anger in her. I'll catch you for sure. Her father seems unusually absorbed in the paper today. Leonida swallows her bite of toast and asks casually, "My dear father, any interesting news today?" Nothing that my dear Leonida needs to worry her pretty little head about. Lord Trubetskoy puts down the newspaper, smiles at his daughter, and says, "Send the jeweler in." A red-haired footman standing next to the governor immediately leads someone in. The latter bows deeply, a jewelry box in hand. The governor takes but a glance at it, then gestures for the box to be presented to his daughter. As a look of surprise flickers across Leonida's face, he says, "Come now, don't tell me you thought I forgot your birthday. At the ball 3 days from now, my dear little Nita will be the belle of Nesnaya. No, of the whole of Tevat. Now, put it on so I can take a look." Leonida obediently takes the necklace from the box and clasps it around her neck. Her father's choice is, as always, impeccable. The design and cut are unmistakably from Fontaine, and the central gemstone is so brilliant as to outshine the finest stones from Natlan. "I know it's a bit early," he says, "but as your father, I should be the first to wish you a happy birthday, my dear." He casts a glance at the necklace and adds, "Make sure you wear it to the ball. A very important guest will be there, and I want you to meet him." Her father is speaking in a serious tone, one that makes Leonida grasp the gift's true import immediately. She will be of the age to be betrothed after this birthday. As the governor's daughter, she has always been expected to be married off to the son of some powerful Snezhnayan noble. This is why she has never believed in love. It was, after all, completely meaningless. Her father has a special affection for her intelligence and beauty, of course, but more importantly, her obedience and maturity are everything he expects from an adopted daughter. Of course, that's just one of the reasons. "I understand, dear father." He ruffles her hair with a final affectionate gesture. The fatherly smile vanishes from his face as he returns to his formidable role as governor, his full attention now back on his duties. Leonida watches her father leave with a gentle pang in her heart. She composes herself after a soft exhale, for it's time to focus. She picks up the morning paper, and there on the front page, just as expected, is a letter adorned with black feathers. It reads, "Dear Lord Trubetskoy, 3 nights from now, on the dark night of the new moon, your treasure will be mine. I thank you for your kind generosity. With the greatest regard, Reed Miller." Can you tell which of us is which? The jeweler from Fontaine stares in surprise as two red-haired footmen emerge from the dressing room. Of course, only one of them ranks as a footman, second class from the governor's palace. Left. No, wait, right? No, that can't be it. I mean, right. Yes, the right one is right. Are you just taking a guess? The man on the right seems a tad displeased. Are you sure about that? If you're wrong, you'll be in trouble tonight. The footman on the left teases. Right is right. A firm reply, but one betrayed by a copiously sweating face. The footman on the right bursts out laughing, then shoves his double toward the jeweler. You're wrong, he says. This one here is your sweetheart. Ha, our disguise is impeccable. I meant the one on the right is the fake. You. Haha, you too. Reed Miller, disguised as a footman, interjects, his laughter filling the room. Don't forget, our goal is to make the fake look real. If even a lover cannot recognize their beloved, tonight's operation is bound to go off without a hitch. But is it wise for you to do this alone? If anything goes wrong, you won't have anyone to fall back on. The real footman points out, his voice filled with concern. I won't lose any more of my treasure hoarders, Reed Miller says, the mirth gone from his face. You've already completed the most dangerous task, which is to infiltrate the governor's palace. Don't worry about me and go back to Fontaine. The people there need the treasure hoarders' help too. The footman and the jeweler exchange a glance. Then they swear solemnly to Reed Miller. We promise to steal all the misery from this world. Miller watches the two leave, then turns toward the governor's palace, bathed in the setting sun. Trubetskoy had been successfully against the treasure hoarders for one simple reason: his immense wealth. Even the world's greatest thieves have been powerless before his near limitless resources. With enough treasure, one could hire the finest warriors, acquire the best weapons, and surround oneself with the shrewdest advisors. Wealth could even silence the law and bury all resistance beneath a grave of golden sand. The true extent of Trubetskoy's wealth has been a mystery to the world. More oddly, no one has ever seriously questioned its source either. A chuckle escapes Miller's lips at the thought, but now he holds the answer. The legendary sample mill, a magical relic said to generate endless riches, is hidden within the governor's palace itself. For this discovery, he has the red-haired footman's investigation, the jeweler's keen eye, and the governor's daughter, whose birthday was fast approaching, to thank. The newspaper with Miller's letter sells out almost instantly. In the days that follow, all of nod-krai is abuzz with anticipation for Leonita's birthday ball, albeit not for the governor's daughter herself, but for the inevitable clash between the master thief and the governor. The governor's palace has been put on high alert, with every arriving guest subjected to intense scrutiny. This is a necessary precaution given the master thief's known skill for disguise. As Leonida scans the long list of names and titles, barons, sons of earls, rising stars in the royal court, clans favored by the Tsar, and so on, the necklace around her neck begins to feel heavy, less like a gift and more like a set of shackles. Some fresh air out in the courtyard would be good right now, she thinks. Mama, is that the daughter of Lord Trubetskoy? Indeed she is. But why is she human? I mean, the honorable lord isn't. She's just the lord's adoptive daughter. How utterly strange. Why would the noble Lord Trubetskoy adopt a human? Interesting. So is the governor a fae? That would make sense, considering... what's his name? The current mayor of Snezhnaya. Why am I blanking on his name? Pulcinella. Yeah. A poised and elegant lady, whom Leonita has never seen before, is whispering to her child in a nearby hallway, I mean. When she notices Leonita looking, she turns away and leaves without a word. That's true. Why in the world would the noble Lord Trubetskoy adopt a human being? That's true. Why in the world would the noble Lord Trubetskoy adopt a human being? A whisper, speaking of the unhappiness creeping into her heart, startles Leonita. She looks around the courtyard, but she is alone. Is her imagination playing tricks on her? She sighs and turns towards the palace's innermost chambers for another round of treatment. These sessions leave her utterly drained, yet she endures them without a word of complaint. So determined is she never to be a source of shame for her father. For some reason, she recalls the voice she had just heard in the courtyard. It was a voice that, like a bonfire in winter, radiated heat that could melt the snow. As night falls, guests begin to arrive one after another. Leonita feels her nervousness grow. All evening, she is approached by a stream of potential partners, each asking for a dance. But as they come and go, not a single name registers in her mind. 10, 9, 8. The countdown to midnight begins, and every eye in the room turns eagerly to her. Beside her father, the ambitious upstart from the royal court stands, his gaze fixed on her, or perhaps on the massive gem gleaming at her neck. 6, 5, 4. She can't tell what everyone is anticipating. Is it her birthday, or is it something else entirely? 3, 2... Huh? Since moments ago, Leonita has noticed that everyone around her seems enveloped in a silvery white glow, and this light has only grown brighter since. From time to time, her own body would emit the same silvery white light. Father calls it a disease that requires constant treatment, a flaw in her very being. 1. The jewel on her neck suddenly drops with a whoosh. The world is engulfed in a silvery white light. Around Leonita, a silence as deep as snowy night falls. She stands frozen, her pulse beating in rhythm with the light, and her heart pulled by an invisible thread. There's part of her that is screaming to run, but a gentle restraint holds her feet. What is this? Magic? Fate? Or is it the feeling she's never believed in, flaring to life the moment it comes near? The crowd around her melts away as time seems to stop, and from the stillness a flash of warm red pulls toward her. Miss Leonita, you're in danger. The governor has instructed me to protect you. Please follow me. But father told me to... No, he didn't send you. You're Reed Miller. Please, miss, this was last-minute order by... Everyone calls you clever, but in my opinion you're nothing but a shameless liar. Well, isn't someone a sharp young miss? Father has set a tight net. You're not getting out of here. But that tight net is centered on the sample mill in the secret chamber, isn't it? Ugh. I made it clear in the notice. Tonight the governor's most prized treasure will be mine. And while the mill is valuable, it's hardly what I'd call a true treasure. You. Are you saying that your target is me? That's right, my clever and adorable young lady. Huh. I am the daughter of Lord Prokhor Trubetskoy. I shall not give my father's archenemy the chance to take me hostage. Really? Are you really the governor's daughter? Then tell me, why would the noble Lord Trubetskoy adopt a human? The silvery white power, the treatments, the sample mill, her father's endless wealth, and the word adopted. It all comes together for Leonita in an instant. She is the true source of their father's fortune. The treatments were not for healing, they were rituals, the key to making the mill produce an endless stream of diamonds. Though a part of her has always known, she has never allowed herself to face the truth until now. I almost forgot. As Miller speaks, he sheds his disguise as the red-haired footman, revealing his true face. I triggered that little It triggered that little contrivance inside the gemstone at the very last moment. A good thing I didn't miss it. He leans in close and whispers into Leonita's ear, "Happy birthday." And the rest is history, yes? Reed Miller makes off with every treasure in the governor's palace, and Leonita, having fallen in love with him the moment she saw his true face, forsakes her gilded cage to wander the world with a master thief. The legend of Reed Miller is often called fiction, but like a person who has never loved and thus insists love isn't real, those who find this story implausible only do so because they have never experienced such a moment themselves. Okay, that was a lot. I'm really enjoying though how this is all written. It's been a while since I've been able to read something and actually picture it in my mind. And this is absorbing me so hard that I keep forgetting that I'm reading or that I'm even on stream. My god. I just keep going into my head and imagining the whole scene. This is so good. Okay. Okay. Volume 3. Little is known about Sima, who hailed from Snezhnaya, a land of perpetual winter. His name is found in no logbook, no epic, no heroic tale. Like a single snowflake, he briefly brushed against the surface of legend before disappearing without a trace. Sima came from a small town southeast of Snezhnograd, where villagers had harvested ice beneath the snow-capped mountain peaks. On snowy nights, they called forth tales and skeins? Like primeval airs sealed beneath the ice, of mischievous frost spirits who stole travelers' boots and pail, melancholy snow maidens who, when betrayed, froze the lovers they had once thought. Oh my god. Should I just read all of this again? On snowy nights, they called forth tales and skeins, like primeval airs sealed beneath the ice, of mischievous frost spirits who stole travelers' boot and pail. Melancholy snow maidens who, when betrayed, froze the lovers they had once sought into lifelike statues by ripping their very warmth from them. Sima had seen a strange, deranged smile on a companion who fell for a maiden before, and he found it a monotonous way to die. He abhorred following a pattern, even the pattern of an unusual death. Instead, he longed for a unique fate and a life of adventure, and so he left the land of eternal white for the blue seas of the archipelago to the south. It was there that he first heard of the legendary master thief. The name Reed Miller was already well known across nod-krai. Stories claimed he had been captured by the governor and taken to Snezhnograd for a hanging on the public square. But just as everyone believed his story would end with a swaying corpse, the governor's vault was found emptied with a taunting message etched in gold dust on the wall. No one knew how he had escaped the noose, but his miraculous return turned him into a tavern legend and an idol to the youth. So when the master thief reappears, buys a 3-masted ship, and starts recruiting sailors seeking adventure and fortune at this harbor, Sima offers his name without a second thought. Life aboard the ship, however, turns out to be far less heroic than the legends promised. Though famed for robbing the rich, Miller runs his operation with the meticulous care of a spice merchant. His nautical charts are cluttered not only with the markings for reefs and currents, but also red-circled warnings for waters said to harbor sea monsters. He spends days skirting around those regions, avoiding the dark abysses where dangerous creatures lurk, as well as the serpent-infested sea of mist. Day-to-day life has been a grind of scrubbing decks, patching sails, and scraping gums. For Sima, it all feels too familiar, too safe, too dull. At night, he prays to the inky sea for a real storm, or for some monstrous kraken to rise from the depths. He longs to see the master thief drive a harpoon into a creature's eye, just like the heroes of old. More than anything, he craves an adventure that will steer his soul. Prayers are answered, albeit in a cruel and twisted way. Drifting into a calm azure sea, the ship is met with a strange inhuman song. Though it has no melody, its power ensnares even the most drunken sailors. The sails drop and the ship stalls. From the water, a pale, hauntingly beautiful face emerges. It is a siren, and she demands a sacrifice in exchange for safe passage. The ship is given a choice: make a sacrifice or be dragged to the depths. Reed Miller flatly refuses to make the sacrifice. Instead, he orders everyone aboard to plug their ears with beeswax to block out the siren's haunting song, but it is futile. Even reason and willpower bend beneath the weight of legend. Seized by panic and the deadly song, the sailors hurl the crates of Mora looted from the governor's palace overboard, thinking the gold might serve as payment. But the siren pays the shimmering discs that have scattered and sank into the azure depths no heed, for human wealth means nothing to her. Her covetous gaze remains only on the sailors themselves. The master thief, whose neck not even the hangman's noose could restrain, now has no choice but to acquiesce. Miller places his scimitar coldly at Sima's throat, but Sima does not resist. This is the moment he has traveled so far for. As the icy waters rise above his head, the face of his long-lost friend appears before him, frozen in sculpture, still wearing that faint, familiar, ecstatic smile sealed by the Snow Maiden's kiss. All his life, Sima has abhorred following a pattern, running from every known ending, only to realize in this final moment that every escape has been a flight into another mirror. His adventures did not pen a new story. They were merely unnoticed footnotes to an existing one. And that unfortunately paints the picture of how fate works in Teyvat. No matter what you do, there are things that are written in stone that you cannot change. Unfortunately. Okay. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit cold, so I'm going to grab a jacket or something, and then I'm gonna read the Conch Echoes. Is this all? Yeah. I just wanted to make sure it was complete. Like, I know they usually put the other volumes grayed out if you don't have them, but just wanted to make sure. So yeah. Okay. Give me one moment. I will be back. Okay, I'm back. This one seems pretty short. And I have actually no clue what this is about. It seems like a very interesting cover. I wish I could look at it bigger. But anyways. Conch Echoes, Volume 1. Give me the conch from your hand, and we will trouble you no more, said the handsome young man, who had arrived at the bonfire with his followers, and was now idly fiddling with the blade in his hand. This was their 30th night on the desolate land of exile, which the boys and girls secretly called the Outlands. The blade that once felled trees, cut grass, pried open fruits, and silenced a great many not of their group was no longer as sharp as it used to be, and the adults who sought to control them by force had died before ever drawing their own blades from their sheaths. Now, no one even knew where its scabbard had been thrown. Are you sure you want this conch? The boy holding the conch was the most diminutive of them all, and hence they called him Shorty. Yes, I do. Why? Do you really need to ask why? The handsome young man said with a smile. Didn't we all agree on a rule, Shorty? That whoever is holding the conch has the right to speak? Yes, this was the secret pact made by the children around the bonfire, to resist the adults who had made slaves of them. To survive this desolate land and break free of their grim status as exiles, the children made a pact. A leader would be chosen from their midst, a child like them, clever and capable of guiding them through hardship, one who would stand with them, yet not fear strength. This was the person who would hold the conch and become the leader of all the boys and girls. Secreted from the beach during the day's labor right under the adults' noses, proof that they were not infallible. As childhood fades, so does the belief that elders are all-knowing superhumans. For most, this perhaps leads to some delusionment. But for these youths, it might not have been the worst thing to learn. And then, the ideal order did not arrive, or rather, the bestial cruelty in the hearts of these children, yet unquenched, was becoming more rampant without anyone to suppress it. For if violence was capable of overthrowing everything, why should those who wielded it not seize everything through it? This included the conch and everything it represented in the children's secret pact. So you think you can hold the conch? I was the one who put in the most effort, and I also got the most in return. What's more, I'm the one holding the blade now. Then you will become the one who commands us all. Yes, of course, I will become the one who commands you all. Just like those adults at the beginning? Well, that might not sound so bad after all. Well, if that's the case, as if to answer, the short boy rose from the bonfire, his back to the flames, his face hidden in shadow. But the handsome young man thought he got a smirk on the other boy's face, and a strange unease about the future washed over him. Until that night, he had believed all to be in his grip, like the knife steady in his hand. Shorty handed him the conch and turned to walk into the forest. After that night, the boys who once held the conch seemed to have vanished into thin air. Volume 2. You knew that things would end up like this. The girl wearing glasses eventually found the short boy. As he returned, the other children parted to make way for him, their eyes filled with worry. At the path's end, a handsome young man lay slumped in a chair piled on with heavy objects, his features sharpened by the pallid green tone of his skin. His deep crimson-purple lips were stark against the bonfire's eerie flames, which flickered like a strange veil in the wind. The young man bore no visible wounds, and yet his hand hung dully, long stiffened as if cast in plaster. The blade that he once wielded with so much pride had fallen right there. Not a single person picked it up. Things always end up like this. I just didn't think it would happen so soon. The boy picked up the blade. Though still hard, it bore the scars of years of wood chopping with its nicked edges and dented surface. The young man didn't know how to tend to this power, but as if it were his only lifeline, he kept the blade's need for tending a secret. Naturally, he grew to distrust all and sundry. His sleep became short and restless, and he was quick to anger. The fear of revealing flaws like the adults did caused him to reveal still more flaws. Things could thus only end in one way. In truth, the only thing the protagonists in most stories need is more patience. When did you start seeing this? Since he demanded the conch from me, I guess. Back when he wanted the conch? Just what is the conch? It's nothing. A toy we found on the beach, really. He would have tossed it sooner or later. Either that or maybe that broken blade. To carry both would only have slowed him down. A pair of hands holding a conch emerged from between the boy and the girl. The owner of the hand stepped forward and placed the conch in the boy's hand. The boy looked down and saw red marks on the palms beneath the shell, left there by the coarse rope. So, what will you do? The girl with glasses asked him. He raised the conch to his lips and tried to blow it just like he'd seen in the picture books. But instead of a clear call, only a soft comical puff of air could be heard. Then he brought it to his ear and listened, and from the conch came the sound of waves. We shall build a town here and make it an Elysium for boys and girls. No one person shall monopolize the conch from now on, for it belongs to all of us. Anyone can hold it and speak their mind. But all of us will grow up one day, and will become the adults we don't want to be. Don't worry, it's okay. There's always a tomorrow, and there will always be other children. If they don't like who we become, they can shatter our world with their own hands. A short, unassuming boy, and a rather smart one. He hurled the dented blade into the waves, and placed the conch amidst the children. What the fuck happened? How did the other one die? That was crazy. Then there's also... not here. This makes me feel like I have to collect more of them. I just have to. And then this... I literally cannot use it, I cannot read it, I cannot do anything with it. Oh no. Well, that was interesting, albeit I didn't understand anything, but... you know. Okay, let's read this. Master Key. No secret remains forever hidden, for even in the darkest and most secrets of rooms, negligence will always leave a crack. No matter its complexity or brilliance, a lock is vulnerable from the moment of its creation, just as even the most meticulous plan is bound to sow the seeds of its own failure. To the young woman who claimed to be the successor of a master thief, secrets and mechanisms were but mere games. Neither the proud gentry of the north nor the sycophantic merchants along the borderland could build an unpickable lock to match her skill. The more intricate a design is, the more fragile its construction. With enough pressure, no lock can hold forever. And so, as the notoriety of the blade breaker blazed across all the land, Shanskowska. As the notoriety of the blade breaker blazed across the land, Shanskowska, the peasant's daughter, became lost to all memory in time. The girl who claimed the mantle of a fae lord pilfered countless treasures, her laughter ringing through the dim extravagance with the abandon of a genuine noble. What should have remained to be a mundane, uninspired life, untouched by any spark, changed dramatically one day when a voice suddenly rang out. "My dear young lady, oh proud and ridiculous impostor, I'm guessing you're the first person to see this news. The Grand Duke's so-called treasure is of no interest to me. You may have it, my dear, just as you have claimed the mantle of that master thief. But do remember, I was the first to break this mechanism. Let my name be etched into your heart, a name you will remember forever alongside your failure." The Grand Duke's dinner banquet had been a blatant provocation to thieves everywhere, for the secret treasure on display was impossible to steal, or so he boasted. The young lady, scoffing at the arrogance, vowed to make away with his treasure in what would be one last heist before her retirement. But someone had beaten her to the punch. The thief, who went by the escape artist, had left a taunting message on the wall, and its sting left her seething with fury as well as humiliation. What followed were countless grudging contests, each one ending in humbling defeat. The lock-picking skills the young woman once prided herself were found constantly wanting in her rivalry with this unseen nemesis. The more she failed, the more her shame burned, and the more she hungered to meet the one who kept beating her. This went on until one day, this infuriating rival who always left her red with rage, vanished without a trace. Subsequently, word reached her that this thief had been caught and executed. For reasons she could not explain, she found herself at the rambling graves, unearthing the stone coffin containing the prisoner's body. But when she dug it up and looked inside, she found that the body was gone. All that remained was a mocking sentence etched in the cold stone. Wiping away tears she couldn't quite explain, the young woman cursed her longtime foe's cunning through clenched teeth. As always, she swore to dedicate her life to uncovering the truth behind his fake death and once and for all outwitting him. In the end, time claimed both the beauty she once flaunted and the final breath she held. Bereft of the strength to pick even a simple lock, the woman cursed his name one last time before resting inside the empty coffin. What? This definitely feels like an allegory. But it also feels like an actual story. That's strange. But like, to be chasing an invisible enemy all your life, and in the end they win just because you kept chasing them until you died. You never gave up. I don't know. Okay. That was very interesting though. We're at it. Okay. Black Marrow Lantern. If power were a majestic edifice, how many bricks are needed to build it? Bricks alone do not make a building, so who decides which bricks will form the foundation and which will become the spire? Beneath the facade of strict order lies the truth. Sheer chance alone arbitrarily decides the fate of every brick. A towering building can be brought down by a single crucial brick, one that will not obey this false order. The Godfather's secret treasure lies deep within the black market. The feast meant to shatter the old order had begun, and hungry thieves were now gathering for the prize. This was a battle of all against all. The most mortal threat came not from the Godfather's guards, but once fellow ruthless thieves. A Fae was the first to enter the treasure vault. The world had taught him to seek out gain, shun personal harm, and keep a distance from the schemes of others. He was cunning beyond measure, able to read people's minds like maps and navigate the safest paths through the most tangled of intrigues. The next to make an attempt was a young lady for whom winning against the Fae mattered more than the Godfather's riddles. With her blade, she adroitly cut through every lock, outwitting the supposedly intricate mechanisms with the simplest of solutions. The last to face the challenge was a hunter, who saw the maze not as a riddle, but as a hunting ground more cruel than one wrapped in frigid winter, demanding every last drop of caution. Patience is a poison trap, and sharpness is a bloodthirsty blade. Guided by his raw primal methods, the hunter met the challenge head-on. Yet all were defeated by the vault, the Fae, the young lady, and the hunter alike. A butler in black bound the three and led them one by one into an inner chamber. Esteemed Godfather, your guests have been seated and now await your command. Satan pitch in hand, the Godfather chewed leisurely, saying to each one of the guests brought in by the butler thus: You have shown no regard for the world's order and dared to take what was not yours, and for that I intend to reward you. Order, as it is known, exists only to serve its architects. I find this unacceptable, which is why I shall need your assistance. What this world calls order is not by the rich getting richer and the poor being left with less. I have concluded that thievery, then, is the only way to restore balance. Should you choose to uphold the thief's code from this day forward, eat this fruit in the presence of the master thief's remains. Having longed since childhood to escape the hollow luxury of noble life, the Fae was moved by the Godfather's words and ate the bowl fruit, accepting his offer. The young lady, who had never bowed to the arrogance of those above her in station, swallowed the wolf hook without hesitation, for her philosophy was fully in line with that of the Godfather. The last to swallow the fruit, the balberry, was the hunter, who at once retreated into the cold forest precisely out of refusal to live in compromise with a corrupt world. Excellent. The pact is sealed. From this day forward, you are the backbone of the resistance against injustice. After watching his guests live one by one, the Godfather gently ran a hand along the vault's bare walls, lost in reflection. He had removed the most crucial brick from the edifice of order, yet he could not foresee an unexpected turn of events. Watching the Godfather clutch his pained abdomen with a frown, the butler beside him gave an elegant smile. With utmost calm, she took up the master thief's black spine bone. Leaving the calla lily behind to be used as an antidote, she swiftly exited. What you just said to the gathered thieves illuminated the master thief's ideal to them. For that reason, I shall spare your life. But true justice lies not in order itself, but in the fact that no single person can ever impose it on others. Bro, I feel like the fruits have some kind of significance, but I have no clue. Where would I even start to find this out? The Godfather had a Satan peach. Then the Fae ate the bullfruit. The young lady ate the wolf hook. And the hunter ate the valberry. And then the calla lily is an antidote for the Godfather, because the Satan peach was poisoned. Interesting. Unfortunately, I think that those are the only ones I managed to get from nod-krai. Oh, and also, I think I didn't read this yet. So let's read this. Etherlight Spindle Loot. Beyond the ruins of the ancient palace and on the edge of the wasteland stands the tranquil sacred forest of Lake Amsvarnir. Lake Amsvarnir. Legend has it that whoever breaks a golden branch in the forest will find the royal court of the Seelie, which is concealed from mortal eyes during the day. A kingdom of the past, it lies forgotten by both time and space, hidden in shadow where no heavenly light can touch it. Its owner has long departed, leaving behind nothing but a neglected courtyard and a hall stripped bare. Yet, within the palace that should have been abandoned, a young woman's silent lament echoes across its walls. Once upon a time, the Titan craftsmen of the skies once wove the destinies of all living beings, the golden harp their instrument of fate. That was the divine plan of the heavens. If it were followed, the entire world would usher happiness in. Yet even the ignorant can dream, and in her dream, a new future revealed itself. She saw men raise a tower to the heavens, and from its heights, the tower's apostle waging war against the sky. She saw roaring beasts, each larger than a mountain, breaking free from the bonds of the earth. She saw 3 moons casting their lights upon the sea, a sight soon eclipsed by an ancient dragon rising like a tide. All that vanished the moment she awoke, as if it had never happened. All that remained was the indescribable glance from those star-like eyes. Was it love? Perhaps it was just a delusion woven from hope, ambition, and a longing for death. But that matters not now, for the story has ended and it became Elysium's finale. The chirping of insects on a long-gone autumn night is the chorus of exiles, singing mankind's most ancient song as they live out their plight. They had lost the place of their bodies and souls, with nothing left but songs and memories of the homeland they once knew. The last singers, the first Seelie, they played their final tune in the Hall of Angels. The wolf who once broke into this place had long since departed. Only unfulfilled dreams remain and continue to chase phantoms. Bro. I mean, this was nothing really new. But the royal court of the Seelie, I want to go there. Where is it? Give it to me. Well, that was all fantastic. I think I've run out of things to read. I'm poor. But yeah, that was great, actually. And I ended up coming here. And the weapon from this place, I know that I already read that one when we were doing the quest, so yeah. Well, I think I'm all done with nod-krai until the next patch, of course. Let me look at my little notes. Books, weapons, artifacts, and my voice lines. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read everything. I mean, I didn't read, for example, the materials, but I'm not sure how important they are, what all they say. The glow of these noble creatures was described as the unsullied mercy of the divine emissary. Bro, stop using the word emissary! I'm going to lose my mind. I just noticed that this one has the same drawing on it as the treasure hoarder's insignias. It's literally the same one. There's zero difference. Nope. Bruh. That's so long. Okay, so nothing really crazy as far as I can tell. And why so long? It's very interesting that these two have basically the same description, just a little bit different. And so this one ends up being a symbol of faithlessness and apostasy, and this one is a symbol of faith, essentially. But everything else is pretty similar because they both have the same colors. And this one doesn't react to Kubaki, but this one does. Okay. Well, I think I went through everything. Oh, I forgot. Okay. Oh. My cat suddenly jumped at me. Okay. So. It was quite a short stream, but I also have to study. And then I also have to go do some other things. I have to clean my house, etc., etc. I'm still editing. I think I'm 3 weekends behind on uploading the VODs. My life's a mess at this moment. So, although it was a pretty short stream, next weekend we'll be doing the Archon quest, and that will be a long stream. So, we're making it up. But for now, I'll be ending the stream. So I hope you guys have a great week ahead. You have fun on your weekend. And I will see you next Saturday. Bye bye.